All right, my program today, I was getting kind of desperate for a program, so last week I went to Karen and I said, sometime in the future, would you consider doing a program? Yeah, well, how about next week? So anyway, our speaker today, I've known her for most of her life in one way or another. She is in PEIMS, and I had no idea what PEIMS is. If you're in the school system or associated in some way with the school system, you may know what PEIMS is, but if I were to go out on the street and ask 9.5 out of 10 people would have no idea what it was. But I think Karen is going to let us know today exactly what it is PEIMS is. Karen Holyfield.
Because I'm pretty animated. No. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm pretty loud anyway, so. Okay. So, yesterday, I didn't think I was going to be here. I thought I was going to be out of town, but that, thanks to my husband trying to keep having heart attacks on me, I was here. So, I threw all this together real quick, and Dad told me I had 20 minutes, and I could talk about this topic all day long. But I did call Pete and said, hey, by the way, I am going to be there. I can do the program. What is PEIMS? And he said, I don't know. Why do you ask? And I loved it. So I'm going to ask you if anybody, except for Carolyn, because she knows, and Pete, do you know what PEIMS is? No. All right. Well, you're about to learn today. Okay, PEIMS is a public education information management system. So basically, anything that you want to know about a charter or a public school, you get that through PEIMS, and that's what I do. So I take all the data from the school and I send it into TEA. And my dad will want you to tell me, he will want me to tell you about these 3 things. They have errors on our submissions. We have 10 submissions, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but we have 10 submissions we send in a year, and I work on them all the time. Anyway, in my world, there's 3 kind of errors that you can have. So the data, they have all these rules that you go by. You try to get it the best you can, and you send it up. Well, there's 3 errors. There's a warning, which means, hey, you really need to look at this. This could be wrong. There's a special warning that says, hey, this may be wrong or may be right. You need to decide. And then there's a fatal. That means it's totally wrong. It's not going up. So my dad has gotten used to it. He'll ask me all the time, how many fatals do you have? And then everybody thinks we're insane. But that's the world we live in. So, but fatals are, you don't want that. It's bad. So, I told you that PEIMS means Public Education Information Management Systems, but my friends and I have come up with several different meanings for those. And so we have perhaps everyone ignores me speaking, which is true most of the time. Possibly errors in my submission. Possibly every inconsequential, meaningless statistic. Providing every individual magnificent service. My favorite is please enroll in my school. And I left some of them off, but that one's my favorite. And a 5th grader came up with that one. So, like I said before, if you want to know anything about a school, a charter school or a public school, you can go to the TEA website, look up PEIMS reports, and you're going to find all these different things. So this is just a little sample of the TAPER report. That's basically the school's report card. And those are out there for anybody to see at any time. Then here's another report that shows staff salaries and their FTEs, financial reports that you can compare us to a different district and see where we are. So, also, PEIMS is responsible for a huge chunk of the funding for schools. About 60% of that comes from attendance. So attendance is extremely important at school. So we're always pushing that. You need to be at school for several reasons. One, of course, financially, but 2, if a child's not there at school, they're not learning. If they're not learning, they're not going to be able to go on. So we need those kids there. The way attendance is in, well, when I was a kid, you had to be at school at 10 o'clock. If you were at 10 o'clock, you were counted there for the whole day. Everybody else remembers that? You were there at 10? Okay, so that caused drive-by schooling. So people would show up at 9:45 with their child, and then at 10:05, they would check them out and leave, and then they got funding for the whole day. So kids weren't learning. The school or the state was like, wait, we're paying you all this money, and these kids aren't even here all this time. So they got clever. And they invented what they call a snapshot time. So every day, every school decides what time are we taking attendance. In our district, we have all different times. Our elementary is usually at 9:05, intermediate's 9:25, junior high is 10, high school is at 11. Reason being, they have late arrival, so they may not get there till 10. So we don't want to do attendance at 10 o'clock because they won't be there. We want to make sure we have as many students there at that time every day. So then we take attendance, and that's that, we go on. In 2013, though, they did change the law. You still have the snapshot time, but you also have what they call a 90% rule. So that means whatever class you're enrolled in, or classes that you're enrolled in, if you're not there for 90% of the time the class is offered, you don't get credit. So for high school, that's really bad, because then they can't move on. Same thing with elementary, they can be held back. So it's very important that they're there. And that's how the state got around that. Now, for attendance, according to TEA, a student is either at school or not at school, present or not present, funded or not funded. So the only thing that counts as far as excused or unexcused absences goes is for truancy. And all they're looking at is unexcused absences. If it's excused, they're not going to count that towards their truancy. And the state allows for 17 funded absences, which means a student could be gone from school but counted there. And there's 17 different reasons, like for instance a field trip. They're not at school during that snapshot time, but we know they're there. So they're counted as present. But here's a few examples of those. They also allow for travel days for certain things. So if you're an election clerk, you get 2 days of travel to get there and 1 day for the election. So we haven't ever had that, Carolyn, have y'all? Yeah, we've never had anybody leave to be an election clerk, but it's there if they want to do it. They get 2 days, a junior or senior, they get 2 days a year to go visit another college, but they get no travel days, so don't go to Alabama unless you can make it there in a day. They can get excused to take part in their own naturalization service, plus they get travel there and back. This one's my favorite. If a student is in grades 6 through 12 and they miss school for the purpose of sounding taps at a military honors funeral held in Texas for a deceased veteran, then they're excused, or they're funded. So it's like they were at school all day that day. However, if they're in 5th grade and they go to Wyoming to play taps at their granddad's funeral, that's not funded. So it has to be very specific. Somebody somewhere did that, went to a senator, they passed that law. So there you go. If you want a new absence, you just need to get in touch with the senator. They'll do it for you. This one is really interesting. It's a student may miss school for the purpose of observing a religious holiday, and they also get 2 travel days. So, for one, we're in Gilmer ISD, we're not going to end up on the news. So we're never going to tell somebody that that's not a religious holiday, because that's not something you want to be known for. But I will tell you, at my former district, we had a bad weather makeup day on Good Friday. So we had parents that were very upset about that. They were like, we're not going to school, we're not going to do it. We're like, okay, but they'll be unexcused, blah, blah, blah. Well, we had a parent go on to TEA website and find out that a religious holiday was an excused absence and that you got 2 days for travel. So then she got on Facebook and told all her friends, who told other friends, who told other friends. So Thursday at school, we had about 8% of our population there. Friday, on the bad weather makeup day, we had about 6%, I think, of our population. And then on Monday, we had about 10% there. So suddenly, over that time, everybody became religious and observed Good Friday. So, Everybody was freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, we're losing so much money. I'm like, no, because if they bring that note back that says religious holiday, we're not going to ask them, are you truly celebrating this or what? I said, we're just going to say thank you and go on, which is what we did. So we lost no funding. So that was a good thing. So there you go. You just got to find a loophole, and they did. So a court appearance, we get this one a lot. Mom and dad will get divorced. They want the child there. That doesn't count unless the child is being subpoenaed. But then we get kids that have been subpoenaed for things. Those are excused, plus a day to travel there and a day to travel back. And then my favorite one is the breed school error. So this one I didn't even try to write down, but it goes like this. If you are at school at any point during the day, you leave to go to a medical appointment and you either come back within that day or the next day, but you bring a doctor's note, it's like you were there all day. Does that make sense? Yeah. So my kids hated me working for the school because they never got to miss. That just didn't happen. And so they would have orthodontist appointments, so I would make them go to school in the morning, then we'd leave at 10, go to the orthodontist, and then they'd get to come back to school. So they breed school error twice. I could have let them stay out the rest of the day, but then there's that little 90% rule, so I made them stay. So anyway, not a well-liked person in my house at that time. Okay, so since we're talking about attendance, I thought I would share some attendance notes that I have received, or that friends of mine have received, and we share these. This is Rachel's favorite part. And remember, these are actual notes, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So, my son is under a doctor's care and should not take PE today. Please execute him from class. Please excuse Lisa from being absent from school yesterday. She was sick and I had her shot. Dear school, please excuse John being absent on January 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, and also 33rd. Thanks, Lisa. I think Lisa didn't go to school enough. Carlos was absent yesterday because he was playing football. He was hurt in the girling part. Now, that one did come to me, and I did not even ask what she was talking about. Let it go. Please excuse Jennifer for missing school yesterday. We forgot to get the Sunday paper off the porch, and when we found it Monday, we thought it was Sunday. That one got unexcused, let me tell you. That was not an excused absence.
Nice try.
Please excuse Ray from school on Friday. He had very loose vowels. We're going to watch those AEIOUs. This is my favorite. Please excuse David for being absent yesterday. He had diet. He had the... There you go. That is an actual note that I did receive. And it is the best. It's in a frame in my office. So if you ever come see me, I'll show it to you. But yeah, that is a great one. So, and I'm with them. That is a very hard word to spell. So then another part of PEIMS is we record all the data, like I said, to the school, but we have to decide, we have to find out, are these people, do they get more funding than like your average student? So your average student usually brings in about $45 to $50 a day. So that's just plain Jane student. So they come to school every day, it's $50 a day. However, if they're enrolled in a program that's weighted, they get more funding. So if you are English language limited on that, if you are in gifted and talented, which by the way, that's going away with House Bill 3, which we hardly got any funding for that anyway, but now we get zero funding. Special education gets a lot of weighted funding. Pregnancy and related services, a lot of funding. CTE, which those are your career and tech courses, they get a lot of funding. So we want a lot of funding. We try to get these kids enrolled if they need it. And then that helps them. And then I have a short game, but I gotta have 7 volunteers to do it. So hop on up, Rachel. Go ahead. You need to stand over here. All right. I need 5 more. Come on, Pete.
Come on, Nisha.
Come on, Nisha. You're in school. You can do this. You're that one too. You're 2. You're extra special. Mom.
No, I'm a visitor. I don't have to do anything. That's what you told me.
Will you do it for me? It's easy, I'm not gonna make you do anything, I promise. Except hold your time. Okay, I can do that. I forgot the pitch. Okay, so period 1 is Tom Cruise. He teaches science. Emily Blunt teaches English. You get 3 science. Pete is Angelina Jolie, teaches history. Nita is Albert Einstein, teaches algebra. You're Selma Hyatt, you teach ESL. You're Edwina Makes-a-Lot, you teach a CTE class.
Prettiest I've ever been.
Okay. So, you have to remember some of the rules I told you earlier. But, you're just going to pretend that's your $50 today. You're the same person for all of these. Oh, no, that's for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I need one more. Who wants to be the other volunteer? Somebody, please.
Michael, my child needs help.
Come on, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, so Michael's going to be our student. He's Ricky Bobby Race Car. This is his name.
That is what?
Ricky Bobby Race Car.
Ricky Bobby, I'm pretty sure.
You're right here. There you go. Okay, so this is your money. This is what we get for you per day. So that's 50. So he's $50 a day, right? But Ricky's taking a CTE class, that culinary class, so he gets more money. So that's 20 more. And he doesn't speak very much English, so he gets 30 more. And he's a little behind.
Did you say he's a little
So he's special ed, he's gonna get $100 for that. So how much money is that? Too much.
Pay for my rep.
It's about 200 something, yeah, there you go, see if that works. Okay, so remember I told you there's a snapshot period, so that is gonna be Mr. Pete. So he's the funding period, which is the most important period as far as attendance goes. So, let's say Ricky Bobby is here, and he's there at 3rd period. So is he there for the rest of the day, even if he decides to leave at period 5? Do we get that funding? Yes, because he was here during the funding period. Okay, so then he missed his CTE class because he left and went to the doctor. And he brought that note back. And he breathed school error because he was here through 4th period. Do we still get that funding for CTE even though he wasn't there?
Yep.
Yes. Yes, because he breathed school error. Keep up, Dad. Okay.
3, 4, and 5 in first.
They don't know they're special ed too. Y'all are in wrong order. So, there you go. Okay. So, let's say though, Ricky Bobby goes to 1st period, and then he's like, you know what, I'm done for the day. I'm not staying here anymore. And he leaves. Do we get that funding? No, because he wasn't there. The other geniuses have got this down. So, anyway,
He loses.
but now we lose
Wait, he loses all of it?
all of it.
Okay.
Yep. So, yep, all gone. So, let's say Ricky leaves 1st period. Well, so you were there, but you leave 1st period. You come back 4th period with no doctor's note, nothing. You just decided, no. Yeah. That's the one that messes up principals a lot, because they think, well, he came back at 4 and he was there for that culinary class, so we should get that and for ESL.
But you missed this one.
But he missed the funding period, so it's like he wasn't there. See how that works? Isn't it fun? Yeah.
This would be really fun to keep up with if there weren't computers.
Oh, yes. It is fun. And when the computers go down at the school, everybody freaks out. None more than I do, because that's attendance. So, anyway. Thank you very much, volunteers. Wasn't that easy? I didn't make
A little bit.
Okay, that don't work. Thank you. Okay, so questions for us first.
I should 5, 6, 7 periods. You have to be there for 90%. How do you calculate 90%?
We go off of their attendance for all those classes because in high school, junior high, high school, secondary schools, They take attendance all day, every day, for every period.
So you go back to fifth period and make sure he was there 90% of all fifth period classes for that period, that 6 weeks or that, whatever. Okay.
For everything.
Okay.
Any other questions about it? Because I could go on to that too. No questions on attendance? Okay, so in a case like that, so if you don't come into school until 11:15, so let's say you're just a half-day student for some reason, then for you, they would make a different attendance time. So they would probably make your attendance like that 6th period class, which would be around 1, and then that would count. You can do that for special groups of students, because we do have some students that were homebound maybe for one reason or another that transition back, and so they'll come back only for a half day, so they might miss what we would state as our normal funding period. We make a special one for them. Or we have students that are on the fast track, so they're in, they call it the points program, to try to make sure they graduate on that. They're only there 4 periods a day. Well, they're gone before high school does their attendance. So their attendance is at 9:30, I think, so. Any other questions?
Financially, how much would, let's say Gilmer ISD, where would we rate as far as our truancy level, and how does that affect our overall funding?
Our truancy has been horrible for the last 3 years, but we have a new judge, Mr. Betterton, right? Betterton is our judge, and we've talked to him, and he's very on board with us, and it helps. The only way you're going to keep these kids in school, it doesn't matter how many incentives you give them, like they've done before with cars or TVs or whatever. The only way to do it is to get the parents on board, because you have parents that they're responsible for getting them to school. Well, we'll have parents, consistently, especially elementary seems to be the biggest problem. Those kids won't show up till 10 or 11, and so they're only there for that short amount of time. So they've already missed 2 to 3 hours of learning. So now that we have this new judge, we're sending all of our truancy to him, and he's really hitting them. They can't do a lot of fines. I'm sure you remember in 2013, there was a lot of talk about the truancy fines, because in Dallas, they had people that were charging $900 for that kind of stuff. And so everybody got outraged, talked to senators, and they had that law changed. So now I think the max they can charge somebody is $500, and that's after the 5th time. But here, that doesn't matter. $100 is a lot. That's a lot to me. So it's really a lot to a lot of these parents. So now that he's on board, we are seeing a trend, and our truancy is starting to go up. Or for us, that's good. Attendance is going back up, truancy is starting to go down. But this next year, we look for that to be even better. So that'll be good. Does that answer your question?
What about kids in summer school?
Well, summer school is out of my domain because we don't get funding for that. So look, I don't keep up with that. I only keep up with stuff that brings in the money. But
What's the average overall cost? I mean, what do you pay per student on the average?
pretty much $50 a day.
50 a day, so every average school is losing $50 a day. Excuse that.
Well, unless
Right.
they have all those other things.
Yeah, now if they have those other funded absences, then we don't.
Yeah.
I
But,
mean, if they have like the limited English proficiency or if there's special education, then.
oh yeah, now the more programs they're in, they're more. Like we've had some kids, we've had, not here, but at my former district, we had a student that was ESL. She was pregnant. She was in the, the cosmetology program. So that's 3 hours of CTE a day. And she was special ed. So not that I condone any of that, because like my eyeballs were spinning, because that's a lot of money. She was worth about $260 a day. So that's a lot for that. And our main goal was to get her graduated, which they did. So that was a good thing for her. That's really what we try to work on, to get them graduated so they can move on and do something else. But,
How often does the money come in?
well, we get it once a year, but it's usually after the fact. But they do this fun little thing where you might make all this money from ADA for your students being there and all that stuff. But then they look at your summary of finance from a year and a half before, and they take away. So it's fun. The state wins no matter what, but we try to get every dollar we can. out of that.
On some sort of an average, what is the attendance level in Gilmer ISD?
This year, unfortunately, is 94.4%. We don't like to be below 95. Every percentage point is $150,000 we go up. So that's a lot that we went down. So we're trying to go up, and we're hoping with our new judge we will.
So you're saying that most of that trend downward was truancy?
A lot of it was truancy, yeah. And then, you know, they changed the law too with the minutes. So a lot of people think that if they get so many minutes a day, they don't have to go, but that's not really true. It's minutes for the whole year, and it's based on the school day, not so much how many minutes that child attended. So, anything else? If you're ever interested in it, you can go to Facebook and go to I Love PEIMS. They have a great website on there that's got all kinds of stuff, and then you can get these cool socks that I've had. So,
What's the crown for?
because I'm the PEIMS queen. You can ask my boss. So anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you about it.
There'll be a quiz on this next week,
Yes.
so don't miss next week.